Hey dreamers, Leo with Dreaming Tree here. Today we're putting together our holly wreath. As you can see, I've got my pieces here in front of me. Now, many of you have been, well, surprisingly, and maybe not so surprisingly, the last few bundles that have contained wreaths have been some of the most popular projects created in the bundles. So we thought, well, let's do something for Christmas and the holidays here. So we're going to begin by, and I kind of just laid everything out just to make it easier on myself. And we're going to start off with these two pieces, which we've cut in this is AC wine. And what you want to look for here is you'll notice that on one section here, this one here, there are a couple little indicators there. And this one also has that. We want to make sure that we find the indicators and just kind of look at where the tip of the leaf is and find the tip of the leaf that it matches up with the indicators here. We're going to put those right on top of each other like that. So this is going to get glued together. And this is mostly just to, well, specifically just to reinforce this piece and make it a little more solid. Okay, so we've got a lot of real estate to cover here, so we got to work quick. And with something this size, don't hesitate to add just a little bit more glue, because as you'll notice, as I start going around here, it is going to start to dry. So don't be afraid to squeeze out a little extra glue on these areas here, and then work the inside, and then I'm going to work the little scalloped areas here too, and just add a few little dots in this area here. Not too close to the perimeter, but close enough to where once we start to kind of push down, it'll make its way in there. So again, find the little markers there, line it up with the markers on the other piece, drop that right on top of the identical layer there, and then just make sure that you get everything nice and aligned all the way around, and I actually did a pretty good job there. So give that a press, work that glue into our paper fibers, out to the perimeters, and there we have it. Okay, now we're gonna let this set, and we'll check our work here in a minute, but I think for the most part should be okay. In case it's not, I always keep some scrap paper in my drawer here, and I'll just throw a little bit of glue right on the corner of my scrap. And if I do have little areas here where maybe things aren't sticking because I didn't get enough glue on there, I'll just paint a little bit of glue right into the problem area, so to speak, and just get that to hold nicely. I think it's, well, I don't know if you can set yourself to that high of a standard to try to get every single inch of this glued down perfectly. There's, like I said, a lot of real estate to cover here, so don't put that much pressure on yourself. And again, you can always go in and fix any little problem areas. Now, for those of you that maybe have a spray adhesive, that will probably cover better. But the problem with the spray adhesives is they're very unforgiving, and typically, if you miss, it's stuck and it ain't going anywhere. Okay, next up, next layer here. All these layers so far are going to be flat. Now remember where your top is. Okay, the top is right here with the little markers, so this is the topmost leaf. Now on these pieces here, we're going to start with the white piece. Actually, we're going to glue this together. Well, it doesn't really matter. We can do this one at a time. On this white piece here, you'll notice that there's one little berry here with a Roman numeral 1, or just a little dash. That is going to go on this little area here, just below the little markers. Okay. For the most part, this thing is symmetrical, but not completely in some ways. So you want to try to make sure we get that lined up. I'm going to begin by putting glue on just the berries here. We'll get those glued down, and then we're going to throw just a tiny little bit of glue on the actual holly leaves, but we don't want to go all the way out because some of this kind of just floats So we'll just do a little line about halfway up. And that should hold it in place nicely without having to overdo it. Okay. And again, take a look and find that little Roman numeral 1. We got to make sure that we get that right here, just below our, and I'm gonna pop this up real quick and do this way. You can see from the other angle how I'm doing that, and then we'll just kind of give it a nudge and slide it into place. Although these are all kind of connected, the fact that they're only connected by such a thin little piece does kind of give them some individual freedom to move around. And then of course we want to push down here on the actual leaves themselves, make sure that those sit nice and flat. Okay, now again, we have that Roman numeral 1 there, and it's kind of a little marker to help us with the placement of this one, because this one also has that same Roman numeral marker. So make sure you put that right on top of section 1. Okay, and we're going to start again, just like we did before, by putting glue on the little berries. We'll do that first. And then we'll put some glue on the actual leaves. And again, try to keep somewhat of a mental note as to where that little Roman numeral 1 is to save yourself some time. And if for some reason you can't get through all of these pieces before the glue starts to set, we can always just kind of lift up some of these sections and add a little bit of glue after the fact. But so far I'm doing okay, and I think this ought to hold it pretty well. Okay, there we go. And let's find that Roman numeral 1. Make sure that we line that up with the other Roman numeral 1. I'm going to hold it like this. And we'll pop that right on there. Make sure you get it nice and centered. And there we go. And then push the leaves into place. So far, very simple. Okay. And by the way, I did, as you can see here, I did hit this this limey green with a little bit of a darker green ink as well. Okay, so finally, as far as our leaves go, now we're going to put this this layer on and put this in place. Before we do, you'll notice that we have some score marks. You'll notice that there are little score marks going down the centers of these leaves, and that is so that you can go ahead and take and fold and pinch the tip to give this section of our holly leaves some dimension. Now you'll also notice, as you're watching me do this, that I used some of my gold gilding wax to give these a nice golden edge. It's almost like inking, except I used gilding wax, and it's very shiny, very reflective, so it's a little more prominent. And instead of using an applicator of some sort, I actually just used my finger to apply it, which is kind of fun. Kind of takes you back to grade school, working with finger paints and such. Okay, now you'll notice that this leaf here, the little vines, or the veins I should say, are not going all the way down. It's kind of cut off there. That's where we're going to be gluing our bow, but it's not complete there, so that we have more area to glue, and also it's a good indicator as to which one you need to put up on top on that Roman numeral 1. Okay, so that is your indicator for placement. So this guy here needs to go right above our little Roman numeral 1. And now with this one here, we're not going to put any glue on the leaves whatsoever. We are strictly gluing the little berry areas only. So get your glue on the little berries here. And we'll get this in place. And the rest of it is pretty straightforward. This is a very, very quick project. So if If you know someone that needs a little pick-me-up during the holidays, you want to do something nice for them, make them one of these. They'll really appreciate it. Okay, so again, this top leaf here that's a little bit cut off, that doesn't have the full vein, that's going to go onto the other berry with the Roman numeral 1. And then again, just make sure that you're getting these nice and lined up, because they kind of do have, they have some free will, so to speak. They can move around almost, seems like they're almost independently moving around. They're really not, but okay. And press and hold that down. Give that a second. And then while we're doing that, you can just go around and kind of pinch these leaves a little bit more, make them a little more pronounced, and just make sure everything is making good contact all the way around, so we have nothing peeling back. Let's take a look at what we have so far. That is really pretty. Okay. All right, so next up, to finish off the berries, we have this red foil, and that's going to get glued on just like that. Okay, so let's get our glue, and we're using a red foil here. It's very reflective. It's also very thick, and the back is not very porous. It's very smooth. So this one, if you are using like a foil with a smooth back, you're going to want to be very patient while you wait for this to set. And just line that up. It's pretty much a symmetrical piece as far as the berries go. So just do your best to get that nice and aligned like that. There we go. Okay, and just press and hold that for a moment just to make sure that it really stays in place for us. There we go. There we go. That red really makes this pop, and I'm just going to continue pressing down on this, making sure that my glue doesn't warp this. We're going to also add some pearls to this to really bling it out, and that's going to look really nice. Okay, all right, so that's that. And then, well, you know what? Actually, we can flip this over real quick. And we have to find, there's our, did I do that right? Yep. Our little marker there. This is the little mechanism that we're going to use to actually hang this up. For those of you that have made our wreaths before, you're familiar with this. Just throw a little bit of glue on just this top part, not the tab, like so. And find this other piece that's going to go right on top of it. And that's strictly for reinforcement, so that when you hang it up, it doesn't just rip. Better to have two pieces of paper stuck together than just one. Okay, and then we're just going to put glue on the tab part, and those markers that we have on the back here, that top leaf, just want to align that with the little markers to get that nice and centered. Okay. Got a little ladybug that's visiting me right now, thinking that these are actually real leaves. So kudos to our Dreaming Tree team for making things so lifelike that even the bugs think it's real. All right, okay, so that's done. Now we just need to put our little bow together. And that the bow is a separate piece that we're actually going to use some foam squares to put into place. So really nothing to it. Now we've got the tail here, and then we have a little panel that's going to go on top of it. You want to try to get that nice and centered so that you have a nice even white border going all the way around your beautiful pattern, whichever one you may choose. We have a nice damask pattern for ours. It goes very well with the rest of the project. Very traditional colors for our wreath. Aretha Franklin. Our wreath. I was thinking like that. Weird, eh? Okay. All right, so let's pop that on. Try to get it centered up at the top first. And just kind of focus your gaze on the rest of this now. And actually, while this is setting, it's not a bad idea to start kind of curving it a little bit. So grab your dowel, make sure it's sticking first, and as it's drying, take a dowel and sort of train it to give this tail a nice little curve. And I'm going to flatten it back out so that it really completely sets, but if you do this now, later on, when we really give it a more significant curve, it's less likely to pull apart. And actually it is pulling apart right now, and that's okay. You're probably going to need to do it right now anyway. And then as it's still curved like that, you can always take a little bit of scrap paper, throw a little bit of glue on it, tuck it right behind this section here, add a little extra glue to it, and just glue that down, just like that. And then that way, when it hardens and the glue fully sets, it will more permanently stay in this trained sort of manner instead of just being flat. We want to give it some life. I know it's paper, but we can absolutely do some fun things with it to make it look more interesting. Okay, so I'm just painting a little bit of glue on the tips of these tails and then gluing them down while they're bent. You can see how they're curved, they're not flat. So that's the whole idea there. Okay, so that looks nice. Got that done. And now we have got this piece here. Now this, I'm using gold foil here, and it may be a little bit more difficult to train this gold foil. But I'm actually, if you are using gold foil like I am, I would just start by kind of bending things before we even put glue on them, especially with the foil. And I mean, it technically is a paper, so there are little fibers in there, and we can kind of stretch them and pull them a little bit and train them and kind of teach them to, well, stay in this shape instead of just being flat. So it's probably a good idea with something thicker like this. And you probably could have even done it with the tail. I guess it all depends on how much curve you give it. But with something like this, curve both of them together like so, so that when we do start applying the glue, they'll already kind of be in that position, and then we won't worry about anything coming apart or pulling apart, because, well, we want to try to avoid having to fix anything, especially when it comes to working with foils, because if we have to start tucking some glue underneath this to fix it, there's a good chance we're gonna smear some of that glue right onto the foil, and it's almost impossible to clean it off. Okay, so that's good. And that's kind of, like I said, you can see how it's no longer flat. It's got a nice curve to it. I'm gonna peel this back or pull it off, I should say. Get our glue onto this part, in my case, again, the red foil. Get some of that glue out to the very tips of our little tails here. These are little bow tails, so that the tips don't start peeling off. This piece is symmetrical, so it doesn't really matter which way you put it on. Just make sure that you kind of get it right in the middle there, nice and lined up with the center, and then nice even border going all the way around all four sides here, and just keep pressing that down to get that to stay put. Okay, so two sections are done here, and what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece and we're going to glue it right to this piece. And you just want to make sure that you have it nice and centered, and you can kind of tell based on where the white part is on this section compared to the white part on the actual bottom tail. Just try to make sure that that's nice and centered. So we're going to put glue pretty much just in the center of this. You don't need to go too far out that way or that way. And just pop that right into place, nice and centered. You can kind of use your fingers right here to make sure that you have it aligned correctly there. And again, just make sure that you have it centered. There we go. And I'm just going to give that a press. I'm going to put that off to the side and let it sit. And you can see how nice and curved that looks. Adds a nice element of dimension to that section. Okay, finally, we've got our little bow here, and what we're going to do is we're going to take section 1 and section 2, there's a Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, and we're going to glue these two pieces together. And if you want, you can kind of fold at the little tab there, just so that you know where to stop. I'm going to put glue on the bottom side of this, just like that, and just lay it right on top of the number 2. And don't go past the little score marks there. You want to keep it right between or before the score mark there. Essentially, we're just turning this into one piece. When we make our bows, they're usually just one large piece like this, but this whole thing wouldn't fit on a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. Or if it did, it would have wasted a lot of paper. So we just broke it up into 2. Okay, so we have that. And now next, what we're going to do is we're going to take the other end here with the little B on it, and we're going to bring it back and glue it to itself, right where that 1 and 2 is, to create this little loop. Okay, so go ahead and put some glue on the back side of the B, and very gently just bring that down and line up the little rectangle with the letter B on it with the rectangle that had the 1 and 2 on it, and just press and hold that for a moment while it sets. All right, and then we're going to take the other B. I'm going to put some glue on the back side of the B and bring that over and just glue that to the little rectangle in the center as well. Okay, and this is going to be just like the tail. We're going to have a nice two-toned bow here. I don't know if we've ever done that, a two-toned bow like this. It's no big deal. Probably should do it more often. It looks really nice. Okay, so there's the white part of our beautiful bow. And that just leaves the pattern portion. And just like we did with the white sections, we're going to take the pattern portions and glue together Roman numeral 1 to Roman numeral 2. So you can go ahead and just apply some glue right onto number 1 and take number 2 and pop it right onto that little square. I think in this instance it is square and it's not rectangular. Just press and hold that in place for a moment. Let it set. Do make sure that you do have it nice and aligned and it's not sideways. Okay. And then we're going to take this, we're going to glue this down to the B like that. So let's do that. On the back side of this, go ahead and put some glue on the center where the Roman numeral 1 and 2 is. And we're going to glue the square portion of this with the Roman numeral 2 and the 1 right onto the center. Make sure you have a nice border on both sides here. Okay, you might need to kind of give that a little scoot before it fully sets. Just take this and wrap it around and see if you've got it nice and centered. And if you need to kind of readjust it, do it now or forever hold your peace, as they say. And there we go. Okay. And I'm not even sure. Yeah, I guess we'll throw some glue on this. Okay, so for this, we're going to take some glue and put it on the entire part, all the way down to the little square tab there. And then just take it and just kind of work your way around. Make sure it's nice and taut. And then that square should meet up almost perfectly with the back there. If it's not perfect, don't worry about it because we're actually going to cover that up. But what's most important is to make sure that this pattern piece is actually making good contact with the white piece. And that looks dazzling. Yeah, note to the team, this is great. These two, well, not two-tone, but combination of pattern on solid also makes it much more sturdy too. And that is really pretty with that white border around it, I'll tell you that. Okay, so again, putting glue on the entire part of the bow all the way down to the very end there. And then just take that and just sort of work it onto the paper little by little as you work your way all the way around. And then just take and glue that little square down into the center. And if it's a little bit off, don't worry. We've got one more piece that's going to cover this up nicely. And maybe just go one more go around just to make sure that everything is making good contact there. Beautiful. Perfect. That was easier than I thought it would be, actually. and the result is nice. Okay, now we have this final piece here, and of course I've got a foil. What we're going to do, this does not have any score marks on it, but we're going to fold, we're going to pop it right on center, so you have equal amounts coming off each side. And we're going to take this and just fold this over. And then we're going to take this and fold this over, so that we have this on the back. And to close this off, I'm just going to throw a little bit of glue right on there, press that down, and then take this piece and just fold it over, make sure it's nice and centered, and just press and hold, and there you go. We've got a beautiful little center for our bow. And this is, of course, foil on foil, so I'm going to need to be patient. Some of you have actually used paper clips, and I'm sorry, clothespins. Paper clips. I don't think a paper clip would work. Clothespins to kind of hold your things together. I'm always worried about applying too much pressure to something and then it kind of warping the paper, but I haven't heard anybody mention that that's happening, so maybe it's something I should try out. But in the meantime, let's see, is that done? Are you done sticking yet? I don't trust it. I'm going to keep holding it here for just another minute. In the meantime, I just want to talk about a few things that we'll be doing. I'm going to add, I've got some gold pearls that are going to go in the centers of each of these berries, just to kind of bring out the gold that we have on the leaves. And I may throw some gold pearls or gold rhinestones on the actual bow. I think it's just going to go in the center here, though. Not exactly sure yet, but we'll see. But yeah, I think that's set now. So the idea here is, well, first off, we're going to get this glued down. Okay, and that is going to go right below where the little veins are cut off. It's going to go there, and you can use the little berries here to help you ensure that you have everything nice and symmetrical. So I'm literally just going to put some glue right in this section here, just right there. That should be enough, and actually maybe just a little bit here as well, just to make sure I've covered it completely. And pop that right below the little vein, and then once you have it just below that vein, you can kind of move the tails left or right, whichever direction you need to go, to make sure that that is nice and centered. Pardon my head here for 1 second. I think I got it there. And I'm going to press and hold that in place. Let that stick. Now I have a little bit of a glue explosion here, which is going to be okay. I've got a bow going on top of this. You're really not going to see it, but I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I don't want to mess anything up. Now also, if you want, on this leaf here, if you want to go down and throw a little bit of glue right on the back of that so it's not leaning forward, it's probably a good idea. Because I think eventually the weight of the bow will in fact make that kind of bend forward. Okay, and that's that. We'll let that set while we grab some foam squares. I think one will be enough. On the back of our bow, I'm going to throw a foam square on here. You know what? I may just use 2 because this is kind of heavy. I want to reinforce it a little bit, make sure we have enough strength to keep this on there permanently. And I'm going to pop that right in the center of our little tails here. I want to do it this way so I can make sure I get this aligned correctly, nice and centered. Oh yeah, look at that. Beautiful. Wow, very cool. That's it. Simple as that. Again, I am going to show you from this angle here. Very pretty. I'm going to add some gold pearls on the berries, maybe some on the bow. Haven't decided yet because I really like the damask pattern there. It looks very nice, and I almost don't want to. Oh, we'll see. I'll throw one on there, not glue it down, and see what it looks like. But anyway, that's it. Very simple, very quick. A great gift, a great piece of decor. I don't know if it'll fit in the shadow box actually. If If you flatten out the bow, you probably could, but either way, you got a beautiful little hanger that's all built in and it's ready to go. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please take a moment and visit our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, and while you're there, hit the little bell so that you get notifications anytime we release a new video. And if you make this or anything from our latest bundle, I would love to see it, and so would the 23,000 plus other dreamers that inspire us. So head over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Group up at the top in your search box. Or you can type in this little URL that pops up here at the bottom, and it'll take you directly to our group on Facebook. So anyway, hope you guys enjoy, and as always, I look forward to crafting with you again.